this last meeting of SECLI firm. We're wrapping up the project, and it was important to hear the views also from projects, the outcomes, and so on. Unfortunately, as usual, there's not a huge amount of time for discussions, but I think the important thing is that we captured your point of views, and I'm sure the conversation will continue on other fora. There's going to be workshops and meetings where these things will be further elaborated. You raised several important points, recommendations, and so on. And again, like Alessia said before, we'll pick up on many of these points, and they will help shape the agenda for the next programs of the EU and other fundings. And like we heard before, it's also good to try to coordinate amongst the EU, so Horizon Europe, Copernicus, and other maybe national funds, and probably also international level through WMO and so on. Okay, so as we come to the conclusion of the project, one important aspect that we touched a little bit on, but one thing that the EU is very keen on is the exploitation. First, I just like to remind you where we started, to just have a wrap around the presentation here, where we started with SECLI firm. So I think you heard the story of Lyra a few times. So Lyra was very anxious because she had to deal with this heat waves and increase in electricity prices, and so she suffered insomnia, and she went and speak with some scientists in seasonal climate forecast and trying to find an answer to that problem. So that's basically the start of SECLI firm, and in my own view. But it's pretty close to what actually happened in reality. So moving now to the next, if we go to the next one, and we'll come back to Lyra later. So as I said, the EU is quite keen on exploitation. Of course, communication, also dissemination, exploitation. I won't go into the details, but just to show you that from a EU perspective and more generally, there's a clear distinction between communication, dissemination, exploitation. So if we go, so communication, just briefly, promote your action and results. Dissemination, make your results public. And exploitation, make concrete use of results. So there's a lot of text here. There's not enough time to go through that, but you can find this slides later. They're also available online from the EU. The important point I want to make here, if we go to the next, is that the communication and dissemination are in many ways easier to measure than exploitation. So while communication and dissemination are kind of listing things, I'm not downplaying the role of communication dissemination, but you can say, you know, I posted 3 LinkedIn pieces, I published 3 blogs, and that's my communication done. Similarly, for dissemination, you can say I published 3 papers and I broadcast 3 webinars, and I've achieved dissemination. Instead, for exploitation, which is also closely linked to impact, many instances we hear about impact, whether our output or whatever action we do has an impact, is a more nebulous concept and is harder to measure. So most of the time it relies on metrics such as key performance indicators, the KPIs. And these are useful, of course. They are giving us some indication of what we want to achieve, but they only partially tell us about the success in exploitation of the output. So for example, is 1,000 visitors to a website a success? Or what about a paper that is cited 100 times or downloaded 10,000 times? Is this considered success? So this, as you can see, I mean, these are good numbers. I mean, you'd probably be happy to achieve some of these numbers, but it's still not clear whether you actually achieve the exploitation. So bearing that in mind, I'm not trying to avoid the answer or the problem of exploitation, we have spent quite a lot of time in SECLI firm trying to go through what are the exploitation opportunities. And we had three main categories. The first one is improved skill of multimodal seasonal forecast combination. So this was one of our targets, what we've come up with in terms of our exploitation and things, particularly things that we are taking forward in a practical way. In this case, we have a set of scripts which will assist climate service developers who are computational literate but not experts of seasonal climate forecast in creating a database with forecasts from various sources in an organized way. So this includes simple scripts, but also there's the data management plan, which is available, publicly available on our website. And we started this already through the training that we did in our summer school. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then also the application of seasonal climate forecasting, post-processing methodologies. So one of our target, as I said, was multimodal combinations. And again, we spent quite a bit of time here trying to work out what is the best combination for which variable, area, season, and so on. And we have quite a good understanding now about how we go about this, including independence metric and several other things that we discussed over the last period. But the main thing is that we've always looked at this with the eye of implementing the solution in a practical way, as we've done in the case of the case studies we were dealing with in SECLI firm. Another part of the exploitation that we're doing is partly dissemination, but hopefully eventually exploitation, is to collect several of the papers that we are writing up in SECLI firm under this special issue of MDPI climate together. And we're doing this, I'm the guest editor together with Dr. Chaofan Lee. And if anybody's interested, the deadline is 30th of November 2021. If you are a bit stretched, we can discuss about that. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting special issue focusing on seasonal forecasting for energy industry. Okay, so opportunity number 2, measurable economic benefits of the use of seasonal forecasting case studies. So one of the main output of SECLI firm has been this all the discussion around engagement and with users and so on. And we ended up putting together the decision tree for each case study. And so the lessons learned here with this case, with this decision trees, it's going to be something that is a valuable tool that can be exploited in future projects and any discussions you may have with users when you try to understand how the seasonal forecast actually, or any forecast or any climate information actually is embedded into the decision making. So that's a framework, kind of practical framework that we believe can be relatively easily exploited after SECLI firm. And then there's cross-sectoral learning, including extensions into other sectors where there's more scope to transfer learning based on the outputs of the other EU climate services projects working on potentially relevant sectors such as agriculture, insurance, and non-climate service market projects. So we've done a bit of work on this by linking with other projects and trying to provide some of the tools we learned in SECLI firm and again, the decision tree onto other sectors. So one of the opportunities here, part of the opportunity is to develop this case study flyers, because there'll be, again, it's a communication and dissemination tool, but something that will remain, and all the lessons learned, the approach and everything is embedded here, and it will also provide an opportunity of exploitation. And another one that I mentioned already, the next one is the summer school that we organized and was just completed. And this was quite a complex activity and organization, but I think we were quite successful in attracting more than 250 registrations for about 30 places on the course. We had quite a lot of work to do. The selection was very, very high levels, applicants. And so it took us a lot of time going through that. But we were happy and grateful that we had so many capable attendees at the summer school, and we touched on many topics: climate science, climate food value chain, collaborative approaches, skill of seasonal forecasting, business models, various case studies, and career opportunities. So the idea was to create the knowledge to understand how the climate services work, from the production of the climate science to the use and down to creating a business. So you have all the elements there. Everything is recorded, all the lectures are available, and so everybody is welcome to go and look at that, and hopefully that there's something to learn for each of us. Next one. So if you go to exploitation number 3 now, out of 3, so we're nearly there. This is about the measurable economic benefits of the use of seasonal forecast. It's to do with the Triclimate Service. So as you saw, we developed several opportunities, several types of Triclimate Services. That was done on purpose, both to have a spectrum of options that we can look at and study, and but also provide different opportunities for exploitation on this Triclimate Services. So there is, we heard from Ian and Thames Water that there's a lot of strong interest there to continue that. So that's, I think, a big tick on exploitation in terms of this relationship, particularly from between Met Office and Thames Water. And so we'll hope that that will continue through the work they've done in SECLI firm and develop the Triclimate Service further. The similar stories also for KNMI and TENET on the case study 6. I'll show you in a minute some of the results. And also WEMC and NL work together to develop and tailor the teal tool. And on top of that, we also have the free access version of the teal tool, which will allow other projects and other activities to exploit what is in the tool and maybe further develop it. For example, the WMO has expressed an interest, and they are now investigating, we're investigating between WEMC and WMO how to use the tool to include some of the indicators to show energy vulnerability assessments. And so that's quite a bit on this commercial opportunities. But to go a bit deeper on this commercial opportunities, we go to the next slide, please. So this is the example that we've seen with Met Office and Thames Water, so I won't spend more time on this, but you heard that there's very good potential here to continue. It is based on graphics, but it's quite elaborated, and it took quite a long time to come up with this seemingly simple graphic, but that's as often happens, you spend a lot more time doing simple things that more complex things, like in this case. And then I mentioned the Triclimate Service that was developed between KNMI and TENET, and this is online. It's currently password protected, I think, but you can request a password, and the software will be available before the end of the project. So this is going to be some public tool that can be used and was specific for offshore operations, but you can also have an idea about how to deliver a climate service, because this has basically taken quite a lot of again discussion between the user and the provider in terms of how to develop the graphics, what should be in it, what kind of messages, indicators, all the colors you see that have been thought through. So we come to teal, which is you've heard before. So this is being developed now for seasonal forecast, as well as for also shorter term forecast together with NL, between WEMC and NL. And also there is a version that is being developed with Alperia for the north of Italy in terms of seasonal forecast for temperature and precipitation to help with decisions on hydropower production for Alperia. So we haven't shown that because there is not enough time to go all through these details, as well as looking more in detail about this. But with the next slide now, we show you also, I mentioned some of the ramification and exploitation of what we've done in the project through other channels. So for example, the NF Foundation collaborated with WEMC to develop a specific version of teal, which is showing here some of the energy indicators, so for the energy transition, and there are other climate risk indicators also shown here on the you can't see it now, but the icons here are showing some other indicators that have been embedded and as a way also to demonstrate how the teal tool can be adapted quite easily to other type of applications. So we come to the next level of exploitation is really now to take the teal tool and some of the technology that has been developed around the climate service, how we develop and manipulate and process the seasonal forecast into a commercial entity, which is called Untitled Service. So this is a company that's been launched and registered in Italy a few months ago, and it's a spin-off between the University of Padua and WEMC. And the University of Padua is not there by chance. It's the University of Padua has been collaborating very closely with SECLI firm through URAC. URAC is a partner in the project, and they had a PhD student that was working across the two organizations. So that's why that was a very good outcome also of the project. Through this collaboration, we managed to set up this company that is going to exploit a lot of the output that is being done in SECLI firms. So watch this space. And just finally, just to summarize a bit, we talked about a lot of lessons learned, but probably the main one, of course, there's a lot of science, a lot of many other elements that we've done, but the one element that has been mentioned most often during these meetings is the co-design, co-development, co-production, and co-evaluation. So it's co, it could be co. So up to you, but it's essentially, if you go to the next one, it's about close engagement with stakeholders in an iterative process. And this is critical in transferring knowledge and instilling confidence in seasonal climate forecasts. So we heard about the skill of seasonal climate forecast, which is pretty low. But we also heard that having a seasonal climate forecast in addition to current information is more useful than not having it. And this is proven actually even from a psychological point of view. When people take decisions, having an additional element here is useful, is considered an advantage. So without going into the details, that's also why I think people using seasonal climate forecast, even if they know that it's not always correct, they prefer to use it rather than not. So the iterative process we mentioned is, it was mentioned before as well, is between users, the physical science, and also the social science. So the social science is the element that has been emerging in the last several years more than the direct link of physical science and users. I think one of the difficulties that there was before was that it was always often difficult to understand each other when physical science and users talk to each other, unless the users have a very strong knowledge about what in this case seasonal climate forecast is about. And that's where the social science comes in and helping the discussion and in the continuous loop there. So technically, like I said, it's referred to co-design, co-development, co-production, and co-evaluation, or co. I prefer with 3. It's a bit long with 4, but other is fine. But essentially, we can write a lot about this in papers, and we can create all the frameworks we want. I like to keep things simple. I do contribute a bit to the literature, but in practice, I think I like to be pragmatic as well. And all this boils down to some effective communication. So essentially communication, just keep the communication going between users and providers, if we want to call them that way. But that's what it really is. And so that's I guess the main takeaway of the project. It seems a bit naive and simplistic, but we also obviously discussed all the other elements, and this is like a synthesis, if you want, of the lessons learned in SECLI firm as we come to the end. After nearly 4 years of project, I'd like to start by thanking all the partners that have contributed to SECLI firm. So 10 partners here, led by the University of East Anglia. We had NL, ENEA, URAC, Alperia, UL, Met Office, Meteor France, and WEMC and KNMI. And it's been a fantastic journey together, very long, and we learned so much. Obviously, with difficulties, as we everything that's useful and rewarding. But I think it's been a great experience, and obviously we couldn't have done this without the support of the European Union and the funding that they provided to the project. So thanks, many thanks to the EU. And as we heard from Alessia before, I think she was pretty pleased with what we achieved with the project. So that's a good tick. But of course, yeah, I'd just like to also mention some of the people like behind that. Like this 3-day meeting was put together really in a short time, and I think it came out really well. So I'd like to also, because we were running the summer school before, so there was a lot happening, and we wanted to do things properly, just get the summer school out of the way and then do this, and that's why we didn't have so much time to organize it. But the program has been fantastic. It's been run very smoothly, and thanks to the organization behind this, with the people at WEMC, particularly Lucy and Janice and Elena, Ella, and all the other people who have contributed in WEMC. And I'd like to also give a special thank to Leslie Penny, who's been the project manager and worked very closely with me during the whole duration of the project. Some people have been on the project for part of the project. Several people have stayed actually on the project for the whole duration. So that's great to see. Leslie certainly one of them. Also Elena at WEMC is another one, and many people also in our partnership. So sorry, I won't try to name everybody, but I think it's been a great experience. And before we close, we wanted to also do another photo, but with a bit of a variation on the background, just to celebrate.